He hit her in the head. The entire coffee shop went silent. Welcome back to my channel, Silent Heroes, where we never let you forget the courage, the power, and the stories of those who fight quietly but leave a mark that lasts forever. Here, every incident, every whisper of injustice, and every hidden truth matters, and nothing goes unnoticed. If you think you've seen shocking moments before, buckle up, because what's about to unfold will grab your mind and never let go. The small coffee shop just outside the military base had always been a place of quiet neutrality. Soldiers, officers, civilians alike crossed paths without worry, sipping coffee, tapping on laptops, or simply trying to carve a moment of peace from the relentless grind of military life. Today, however, that fragile bubble of calm shattered in the most brutal way possible. A single strike, fast, unthinking, and violent, sent shockwaves through the room. Sergeant Derek Coleman had chosen his target carefully, but he underestimated one thing: the woman in front of him was far from ordinary. Her laptop hummed softly as she typed, headphones resting over her ears, her presence almost invisible in the bustle of the morning rush. But when Coleman approached, his swagger spoke volumes. A man accustomed to getting what he wanted, shielded by years of untouchable reputation. 8 years in service, 3 formal complaints that had mysteriously disappeared. A predator dressed in uniform, arrogant and unchallenged. His hand shot out, striking her across the face with a violence that made the coffee cups rattle. The crack of impact silenced every conversation, froze every heartbeat in the room, and sent a collective gasp through the witnesses. The woman fell, her head striking the corner of the table as she hit the floor. Blood trickled down her temple, a red streak in stark contrast to her pale skin. Her hands, however, did not tremble with fear. One hand clutched the edge of the table, while the other raised her phone, still recording. Her eyes, wide but unbroken, locked onto Coleman with a chilling steadiness. This was no ordinary civilian. This was a soldier, trained in ways most could never imagine, and she had a purpose far beyond surviving a single assault. Chaos erupted. Young privates rushed forward, trying to pull Coleman away. Shouts and protests filled the air as the coffee shop owner called for security. Patrons hid behind tables or froze mid-step, unsure whether to intervene or flee. Yet amidst the pandemonium, the woman's gaze never wavered from her assailant. A subtle quiver of anger ran through her body, not fear. Every witness felt it, a quiet, commanding authority that refused to be ignored. Whispered questions formed. Who is she? Why is she so calm? How can someone face such violence without crumbling? Coleman's laughter cut sharply through the tension, a harsh, grating sound that reflected his confidence in the system's failure. He had survived moments like this before, shielded by connections and unspoken rules. Reports filed against him had vanished, women's voices had been silenced, complaints buried. And yet, today, something was different. The air felt electric, thick with the anticipation of a reckoning. Even the youngest private assisting with the restraint sensed it. This wasn't going to end quietly. Something in the woman's composure, the way she held the phone, the set of her jaw, suggested that every injustice was about to be unveiled. As base security arrived, the woman calmly gave her statement, insisting on every detail being documented. Her voice carried a strange authority, firm yet controlled, a subtle echo of military discipline. Those taking her statement could not explain why, but they found themselves listening more intently, ensuring no detail was missed. Every hesitation, every subtle hint by Coleman had been captured on camera. The first thread of evidence that could unravel years of protected impunity was already in motion. Meanwhile, the patrons and witnesses whispered among themselves. Some could barely comprehend what they had seen. Others immediately recognized the pattern. He's done this before, and no one ever stopped him. The coffee shop, once a haven of temporary reprieve, had transformed into a stage for something far larger, a confrontation not just between a man and a woman, but between justice and an entire culture of protection for the guilty. And while everyone around her recoiled or gawked, the woman remained poised, her phone still recording, her presence demanding attention, her hidden identity poised on the edge of revelation. And then, just as the tension reached its breaking point, a subtle but unmistakable detail emerged. One of the security officers noticed the insignia on her bag, the faint glint of metals on her laptop case, something no ordinary civilian would carry. The whispers grew louder. "She's military. She's someone important." A shock ran through the room. The first minor twist, the system already fragile, was about to be exposed. People began to realize that this assault would not be swept under the rug, that the very foundation protecting predators like Coleman might crumble, starting here, starting now. The woman's eyes never left Coleman. She rose slowly, deliberately, brushing blood from her face while keeping the phone steady. Her movements were calm, almost rehearsed, but every motion radiated the fury of someone who had endured far more than a single assault. Patrons felt a mixture of fear and awe. This was no random encounter. This was a carefully orchestrated exposure waiting to happen. The air was thick with emotion, anger, disbelief, and an electrifying anticipation that something monumental was about to unfold. Even as Coleman continued to shout, to struggle, to assert his dominance, the woman's presence undid him. The authority he had counted on, the system that had always protected him, seemed to vanish in her unwavering gaze. For the first time, the cracks in his armor appeared, tiny yet undeniable. Around them, witnesses could sense the shift. The balance of power, once unquestioned, was tilting, and the first sparks of revelation had ignited. Outside the coffee shop, the world remained oblivious, yet inside, every detail mattered. Every whisper, every captured reaction, every subtle movement of the woman conveyed a story that went far beyond a single assault. Hidden in her calm demeanor were clues to a larger truth, a system corrupted, predators protected, voices silenced. And here, in the middle of a seemingly ordinary morning, the first threads of exposure were being pulled. By the time the last witness had processed what they had seen, the entire base would never look the same again. She took control, and the entire base would never be the same. The moment her phone captured every detail of the assault, the female protagonist, her hands steady, her mind razor-sharp, shifted from victim to strategist. She didn't panic, she didn't flee. Instead, she began quietly assembling evidence, silently cataloging witnesses, documenting behaviors, noting patterns of privilege and impunity that had shielded predators like Coleman for years. Every glance, every motion, every whispered word was recorded meticulously. What the coffee shop patrons initially thought was calm bravery was actually the beginning of a calculated storm, one that would shake the very foundations of Fort Benning. Coleman, still red-faced and thrashing against the young privates restraining him, had no idea what he was up against. 8 years of immunity had taught him arrogance. He knew the system. Reports vanish, complaints dissolve, predators walk free. But today, every move he made, every shout, every insult was being reported, cataloged, and exposed. He thought he was untouchable. He always had. But there was a force in that coffee shop far beyond what he had ever imagined. Someone who didn't just fight back, someone who controlled the narrative, who turned his arrogance into evidence against him. By the time base security finished collecting statements and securing the scene, whispers had spread. Patrons and soldiers alike spoke of the woman's composure, of her quiet authority that seemed to demand obedience even from the chaotic crowd. She was no ordinary civilian. She was military trained. Her posture, her voice, her calculated movements, everything screamed discipline, experience, and hidden power. And soon, the first shocking revelation hit. She wasn't just connected to the military, she was deeply connected. One of the security officers, a young private, noticed the insignia on her bag, faint but unmistakable. She was Captain Jennifer Morrison, daughter of General Patricia Morrison, a name that could bring the highest ranks to attention within minutes. Minutes turned into a tense countdown. The perpetrators believed they had hours, days, maybe weeks to manipulate, intimidate, and cover tracks. But within 17 minutes, 3 black SUVs rolled through the gates of Fort Benning. Generals Patricia Morrison, Harold Benson, and Elena Reyes emerged, faces carved from stone, eyes blazing with fury and determination. The coffee shop, now a crime scene, became a nerve center of an unfolding military drama. Soldiers froze. Officers halted mid-step. Even Coleman, still restrained, felt the icy shock of power descending upon him. The base's doors and gates were sealed. No one in, no one out. Lockdown. Absolute, immediate, total. Jennifer's calm authority intensified. She briefed the generals quietly, her voice low but firm, detailing every action, every violation, every procedural failure. She did not ask for protection, she demanded justice. Her mother, General Patricia Morrison, listened with a steely calm that barely concealed her simmering rage. Every piece of evidence Jennifer had meticulously gathered was laid bare. Witness statements, recordings, the history of harassment, the pattern of corruption that had allowed men like Coleman to prey with impunity. Every officer who had previously buried reports or ignored complaints was about to face scrutiny. Every silent predator's network was about to unravel. Coleman's eyes widened. The smug confidence, the laughter, the sense of untouchability, it evaporated instantly. He realized too late that the woman he had struck and underestimated was orchestrating a tidal wave that no hierarchy, no connections, no system could stop. The generals tore through files, digital records, and long-buried complaints with surgical precision. Emails, reports, testimonies all exposed the web of privilege and protection that had allowed abuse to thrive. Every hidden alliance, every compromise, every cover-up was visible now, as if the entire system had been lifted onto a stage for public reckoning. The base erupted in controlled chaos. Officers scrambled, trying to hide negligence, erase evidence, or redirect blame. But Jennifer had anticipated every move. Her strategy was impeccable. Witnesses who had remained silent, fearing retaliation, now stepped forward. Private soldiers, junior officers, and even civilians came forward to corroborate stories of misconduct, all catalyzed by the power of her intervention. Every action reinforced the undeniable truth: the system had failed, and it had taken someone with authority, courage, and meticulous planning to expose it. Even amidst the flurry, there were subtle, tense moments of emotional weight. Jennifer paused, a single hand brushing blood from her temple as she watched her assailant crumble under the weight of exposure. The fast-paced chaos was punctuated by these slow, reflective beats, the realization that justice was finally within reach, but that it came with consequences for all involved. Anger surged, whispered curses and threats filled the air, yet her calm presence commanded obedience, respect, and awe. Each detail was precise: the sound of footsteps echoing in the corridors, the shuffle of papers, the murmurs of officers realizing their complicity, and the quiet intensity in Jennifer's eyes that reminded everyone why no system should protect the guilty. The shocking twist deepened when Coleman's connections, previously thought untouchable, were revealed to have been compromised. Emails and records, once buried, now implicated company commanders, battalion officers, and even high-ranking personnel who actively shielded him. Allies he had counted on were nowhere to be found. One by one, every protective layer he had relied upon fell away, leaving him isolated in a storm of accountability. Jennifer had orchestrated it all with meticulous precision, anticipating moves, predicting reactions, and leveraging her hidden authority to ensure no escape, no loophole, no delay. As the generals continued their sweep, the emotional intensity in the base shifted dramatically. Soldiers who had previously shrugged off reports of harassment felt a mixture of fear and relief. Fear because they recognized the power of exposure, relief because someone finally had the courage to challenge the system from within. And throughout it all, Jennifer remained the focal point, her presence a combination of command, courage, and calculated patience. The fast-paced bursts of confrontation were interspersed with slow, deliberate reflection, allowing the weight of the revelations to sink into the minds of everyone present. The final layers of twist emerged as hidden alliances, previously unseen, were revealed their complicity. Individuals who had been thought loyal revealed their complicity. Others, previously considered neutral, turned out to be active enablers. Secrets, once buried, surfaced in rapid succession. Cover-ups, manipulations, threats, and silences that had allowed abuse to continue for years. Every revelation struck like a hammer, leaving Coleman and his protectors stunned. The woman who had seemed like a mere victim had become the architect of a profound and irreversible upheaval within the base's power structure. Every moment of this escalation was punctuated by emotional highs and lows, shouting orders, whispered warnings, cold stares, calculated movements, and raw, unfiltered rage. The base was alive with the intensity of justice being executed in real time. Jennifer's voice, commanding yet calm, guided each step. Generals moved with precision, uncovering truths, confronting perpetrators, and establishing immediate consequences. Lockdowns, reassignment, and investigations began before anyone could react, swift, shocking, and absolute. And amidst the controlled chaos, the audience, those reading, watching, or imagining this unfold, felt the tension viscerally. The story was no longer about a single assault. It was about a system on the brink, exposed by courage, intelligence, and authority. Every twist, every revelation, every shocking intervention reinforced one undeniable truth. No one, no matter their rank, reputation, or history, was untouchable. The rapid escalation, the shocking twists, and the powerful intervention would ensure that the memory of this day and the lessons it carried would never be forgotten. Justice strikes. No one is above accountability. The moment the generals completed their initial sweep, the atmosphere in Fort Benning shifted like a thunderstorm breaking over a calm landscape. Culprits who had long relied on silence, immunity, and privilege found themselves cornered. The company commander who had buried Coleman's previous complaints trembled as officers escorted him to a temporary holding office, the gravity of his negligence weighing heavier than any uniform. Each step the perpetrators took echoed in the hallways, a reminder that the shields of rank and connections could no longer protect them. The air crackled with tension. Every whispered conversation became a confession waiting to happen. Jennifer watched quietly from the sidelines, her presence calm but electrifying. She didn't gloat, didn't demand vengeance. Her satisfaction lay in the undeniable truth playing out before her eyes. Every officer who had failed to act faced scrutiny. Every file that had been hidden was exposed, and every lie was laid bare. The perpetrators, once untouchable, now confronted the consequences of their actions in real time. The power of justice, swift and absolute, sent shivers through the halls. And yet, amidst the chaos, a sense of closure began to seep into Jennifer's soul. The moral victory wasn't about revenge. It was about seeing truth prevail, seeing courage rewarded, and witnessing a system finally bend toward accountability. The systemic reforms were subtle at first, but unmistakable. Orders were issued to review every complaint, every uninvestigated case, and every hidden document within the command. Training protocols were revised, mandatory reporting became non-negotiable, and protection for whistleblowers was reinforced. Soldiers whispered among themselves, realizing that the landscape of authority had shifted. What had begun as a single act of bravery in a coffee shop rippled outward, forcing the institution to reflect, adapt, and reform. The audience, whether watching, reading, or imagining, understood that these reforms weren't just procedural, they were monumental, real-world impacts that could save countless lives in the future. Emotion ran high in the base hospital as Jennifer received medical attention. The cut above her temple, though minor compared to the battles she had fought overseas, symbolized the price of courage. The slow, deliberate movements of the medics contrasted sharply with the adrenaline-fueled chaos of the prior hours. Jennifer's eyes, however, remained unwavering. In those slow-motion moments, she reflected not on the pain she endured, but on the power of speaking up. Courage, she realized, was not about absence of fear, it was about taking action despite fear. Every beat of her heart, every quiet breath, carried the weight of a lesson that she silently shared with the world. The powerless can rise, and the system can change if someone dares to act. Even the perpetrators felt the emotional intensity. Coleman's smirk had vanished the instant the lockdown began. The company commander's arrogance evaporated under the weight of scrutiny. The battalion commander who had protected him squirmed as colleagues and witnesses recounted long-forgotten complaints. There was shouting, anger, trembling, and disbelief. Yet amidst this, Jennifer remained composed, a silent force, observing, guiding, and allowing the drama of accountability to unfold naturally. The contrast between her quiet strength and their desperate attempts to evade responsibility heightened the cinematic tension, creating scenes that played in the mind like slow-motion reels of justice served. The final emotional twist arrived when Jennifer addressed the assembled officers and witnesses. She spoke not of privilege, not of being the daughter of a general, but of duty, courage, and moral integrity. Her words resonated through the halls, echoing long after the speeches ended. No one is untouchable. No voice should be silenced, and every act of courage matters, she declared, her voice steady yet impassioned. The room was silent, absorbing the gravity of her message. Officers and soldiers alike realized that justice wasn't arbitrary. It was deliberate, precise, and required participation from every member of the community. The moral weight of her presence was undeniable, and the emotional impact on all those present was profound. Slow-motion reflections alternated with fast, shocking reveals as documents were handed over, statements verified, and hidden networks dismantled. Former allies turned on one another. Whistleblowers were finally heard. Victims found voices they had long feared using. Every revelation hit like a shockwave, yet Jennifer's calm presence anchored the storm. Her ability to remain composed amidst chaos, to navigate both emotional and procedural challenges with finesse, left everyone in awe. The emotional intensity, interwoven with rapid-fire events, created a narrative that was not only compelling, but unforgettable. And as the dust began to settle, Jennifer's quiet strength became the beacon of the day. She did not rely on her family name to enforce justice. She relied on preparation, courage, and moral clarity. Every act of exposure, every report filed, every person confronted with accountability reflected her skill and integrity. Even as chaos slowly faded into structured order, the lessons remained vivid. Justice had prevailed, courage had been rewarded, and the system had been reminded that corruption, no matter how deeply entrenched, could not withstand the force of truth and bravery. Finally, as the audience feels the emotional weight of this entire saga, a gentle but firm reminder emerges, woven seamlessly into the narrative. If my channel, Silent Heroes, can occupy even a small space in your hearts and minds, if these stories of courage, justice, and standing up for what is right inspire you even slightly, then I humbly ask for your support. Please subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where in the world you're watching from, because your voice, your feedback, your presence is what keeps these important stories alive. Your engagement ensures that courage, truth, and justice continue to echo across borders, reminding us all that every action, every choice, and every voice matters.